Right, ladies and gentlemen, the class has started now. So what you've got is farriers, all qualified at this end. We allow them to heat the metal up before they start. They've had a rough, brief look at the horse's foot to assess it, see if there's anything they need to discuss with the judge. Every horse that you shoe is an individual job, every foot is an individual job. So little nuances that the judge might want to see. He's not here to catch the competitors out, he's here for the horses to be shod as well as they can. So they had a discussion before the class started about what they want to see for these horses. So you'll see different systems in place. Some farriers will go straight to the horse's foot, some will make a start on a bit of shoemaking. Ultimately they've all got an hour to make two shoes, one of which they're going to be putting onto a foot. We're also running classes today for apprentices. They don't shoe the horses, they're just a shoemaking competition. The judge, Mr. Stephen Hill from Oakham, he's come along today to judge. He's brought specimen shoes with him. So those competitors are going to have to make a shoe to exactly match that. Tell you a bit about shoeing horses. All the farriers you can see here that are shoeing, they've all been through a minimum 4.5-5-year apprenticeship. We're the only country in the world with a compulsory registration scheme. So when you decide you want to be a farrier, you go and do a pre-farrier course at college. That's a useful thing to do. You then have to find a training farrier. We have a list of farriers that are qualified to train apprentices. Once you get that training farrier, generally you get in the forge, you start to develop some skills with the metalwork, with the shoemaking, handling horses. But at that point, until they're an apprentice, you're not allowed to get underneath horses to shoe them. Once you're at a happy standard, then apply to college to try to get taken on. That's when you sign up for the next 4.5 years. So week in, week out, you work away with your training farrier, and for so many weeks every year you go down in blocks to college. These competitions like this, there's one most weekends through the summer. Some farriers never compete, I never compete, but being around it, they're very good things for shoeing. You pick up little tips, little skills, and it just focuses your mind, makes sure that you are doing your best for the job. So you can see this horse in the middle, just having its foot trimmed. That hoof's like a giant toenail, basically. It doesn't hurt them. You know, they wouldn't be able to walk on a piece of road if the feet were that sensitive. Inside, it is very sensitive. It's just like the inside of your fingernail inside. So it gives you an idea, if we were to do something wrong, just how painful it could be. So he's basically just trimming the horse's toenail at the moment, and a nice little rasp to keep it there. It's very easy. People often see us doing this and cutting and burning and hammering, and they think it's like a piece of dead wood at the end of a leg. It's not. There's an incredible amount of sensitive structures within that foot. And what he does there at the bottom of the foot has an effect over the whole horse. That foot needs to be trimmed so it's level, so it's all balanced. It's no good a horse walking along on the outsides of its feet, or on its toes, or on its heels. This will have a negative effect on that horse's day-to-day life. Everything that they're doing here today is going to be on for the next 4 weeks, 6 weeks. So it has to be right.
8 weeks.
You can see the triangular bit of that foot where he's just trimming away. It's called the frog. That's like a shock absorber for the horse's foot. You imagine these horses, 500-600 kilos each, trotting, cantering over all sorts of surfaces. There's an awful lot of concussion, an awful lot of pressure goes through those horses' bodies. So that foot is an incredibly complex shock absorption system. Each aspect of what the farrier is doing will be judged. So they will be marked for the trim of the foot. So when you'll see when they're happy with how they've trimmed the foot, they'll go and get the attention of the judge. He'll come out with his clipboard and he will mark aspects of that trim. Everything goes down as a score. While he's doing that, they'll get on making the shoes. So they're making 2 shoes, a specimen shoe. That one just gets put in a pile and judged. The other one will be going on the foot. But again, each stage of the job is assessed. So when they've made that shoe and they've fitted it, they will hand it to the judge. If and only if the judge is happy with how that shoe fits, he'll then give them the go-ahead to nail the shoe on and to clench it up, to finish it off. Horses have been shod for centuries and centuries. Back in Roman times, they used to tie pieces of leather on horses' feet, really the first shoe that was ever used. They reckon William the Conqueror did so well because his horses were shod and ours weren't. So they could cover distances between battles faster without the horses going lame. Horses don't all need to be shod. A lot of horses are better off not being shod, but we shoe for various reasons. We shoe for performance, to help with grip or traction. We shoe to protect the foot. Horses weren't designed to trot up and down on roads. If they're doing more road work than they can grow hoof, we need to stop that wear from happening. So we cover the foot with whatever material. You can get all sorts of hoof boots, you can use all sorts of synthetic materials. It's very interesting that still really after all this time, all the materials we've got, the best compromise material, the jack of all trades, is still a piece of metal that's smacked on a hammer, with a hammer on an anvil and nailed onto a foot. We also shoe for physiological problems. If a horse needs support for an injury, or if it moves wrong, we can help with conformational weaknesses or defects.
So he's making,
because we've got shoes, we can also then start to add things like
studs
studs and pins for traction. So if we've got, let's say, a police horse that might have to canter up and down a road chasing after Leicester City fans, they need a bit of extra help, so we can put tungsten pins into those shoes to give them extra grip. Not ideal, but then neither is falling over on the slippery road. Horses that are show jumping, eventing, doing dressage, we can apply different shape and size studs to give them grip. All of these factors have to be taken into account by every farrier every time they go and shoe a horse.